Hello and welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, the weekly bridge to the future of the piano tech community. I'm David Anderson.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And we're here to ask great questions, and then we'll shut up and listen to some of the authorities, experts, and most outstanding personalities in our little world of pianos.
So, put on your best set of headphones and let's get started.
Welcome everyone to Piano Tech Radio Hour, where we talk to the coolest people in the piano industry every week here on Saturday.
Absolutely.
We're, as always, being brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online educational resource that offers you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more about that at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. We just finished our second official online convention last weekend. It was great. Some of the recordings are available if you want to just get a one-off peek at what was going on. So we'll put a link in the chat so you can do that soon. And we hope you were able to enjoy and get something out of that content. Really great stuff.
There was amazing classes. Amazing classes. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, and really some stuff that you won't have gotten a chance to get a glimpse at previously, like our session with David Clavins, talking about how he put together the Una Corda piano, and
right. Or Paul McNulty.
Paul McNulty about
Paul McNulty, the greatest period piece piano maker in the world, bar none. He was amazing.
Yeah, great stuff. But today we're here to talk to Ricki Kloss. I'm very excited to have her here. I've been sort of chit-chatting with her over the past several weeks trying to book this session, and we're going to have fun chatting. I'll give you a quick introduction so you can know a little bit of background on her. She's been in full-time business since 1995 when she also joined the PTG. She became an RPT in 1998, became a certified tuning examiner in 2011. She has served as a delegate for several years and on numerous committees. She currently really enjoys serving on the Exam Testing and Standards Committee, among others. Ricki has also served as president of the South Central Regional Conference Board and enjoys putting on conferences and weekend seminars to provide educational opportunities. She also enjoys assisting with the Exam Prep on the Road series as a CTE. So she shares our passion for learning and education. So she's an ideal guest for us today. So Ricki, welcome. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm very flattered to be asked. Thank you. Because there's a lot of us technicians around, so you could just interview any number of people.
Yeah, no, I know. We're definitely excited about you in particular.
So I didn't have any idea. I wasn't aware that this human being was alive until we were just talking about this 10, 12 years ago, and got this random email from this woman that I thought maybe was an Austrian woman or some kind of Danish, Dutch woman living in Ricki Kloss. And she just told me how deeply moved she was by my website, by my openness and authenticity and, just the general vibe of my website and me. And it was just this incredibly literate, which is always good for me, literate and sweet and really good writing. And she said, well, we might never meet, and she was an RPT and she did all this. But if we ever do, I'd just like to hug your neck, she said. Yours, Ricki. And I was like, wow. So she put her phone number in this. So I called her up and we've known each other ever since. And I have a tremendous respect for her as a human being and as a piano technician. And she's been a force in PTG for gender equality and really proving that, don't be an idiot and don't be biased about human beings, right? And I just have a tremendous amount of love and respect for her, and she can talk about a whole range of things. So I'm really excited about this hour.
Thank you.
Yeah, also we're excited to have her to inspire other women to join us too, so, and we also appreciate her for joining us. We've had a handful, but not that many, and it's not because we're not interested.
Reaching out.
Yeah, so thank you for being one of the trailblazers to join us.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
It's great. You're in good company, Sally Phillips. Jesus. Really, it's amazing. And so, did you think of anything that you wanted to talk about, Rick?
I was kind of just hoping this would be a conversation that maybe we just have an easygoing conversation. I don't have any skills to impart or anything like that. I am sort of an average technician out there serving the field, and I do some concert work, but not a ton. But I really enjoy doing field work, and I always find that there are challenges there. So yeah, I mean, I'll just say a little bit about myself. So I got into this probably in 1980. So I was 15 years old.
Wow.
My father knew the local music store owner. He did a lot of remodeling work for the music store owner, and so we bought our piano from them. And when I turned 15 and I had nothing to do in the summer, he said, "Hey, can you put her to work?" And so they threw me in the piano department. And it could have been any department. It was a full service music store with band instruments and sheet music and guitar repair and everything. But it was.
Where was this?
This is in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Straight music company. And so that's what I did. I was out in a hot warehouse at 15. And the very first day on the job, it was a bunch of, it was in a warehouse where they had a whole bunch of trade-in pianos and stuff, but there was sort of air-conditioned office where all the guys hung out. But they sent me out into the warehouse in July and said, here's a screwdriver. Go open up that piano over there. And so that piano, the very first piano I ever opened, which was an old upright, had a rat carcass in it.
A rat carcass?
Yes.
Nice.
Dried up in bones, but still.
Yeah.
And I kind of carefully picked it up with some other tools and carried it into the air-conditioned part. And I said, "Is this what you guys wanted me to find?" And they started laughing. "Oh, she's not daunted. She found it. So to this day, I don't know if they knew.
Wow. You passed the test.
I passed the test, I guess. So I did that for a few summers, and then I kind of went to college and tuned just practice room pianos at no charge. I was trying to get my chops, and then finally.
Which college?
UT.
Really? Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you knew Charles?
No, didn't know Charles. I just kind of stepped in and tuned.
Oh, a rogue
behind the scenes,
not knowing that there was
a rogue
under the radar
tuner. Yeah, baby.
I'll admit to a little bit of that. I made friends with the piano tech at my university, but they were definitely, I forget what it was. We talked a little bit about getting to learn how to do stuff. I got a little bit of background. He's like, "Yeah, we'll get you, practicing on some pianos here and there." And yeah, I definitely went in some room with an upright that clearly I couldn't make any worse, and got some practice in. All was well in the end.
It never occurred to me that there was someone in charge of all those pianos because they were so out of tune. I just thought they threw them in there and that was that. So I never even bothered trying to find the technician of the university. So,
wow.
But so I just kind of kept my chops up that way, but I wasn't doing it for a living. And then I graduated finally from UT with a film degree. Believe it or not. Yeah.
Ooh, fascinating.
I was a music major once upon a time and I played French horn, but I decided for me, the music degree at that university was kind of political. So you couldn't pass your juries if you weren't schmoozing with the right professor. So anyway, so I moved into film and I love doing that. And then just as I graduated, you kind of have to be willing to move to Los Angeles if you're going to get in the film industry. And I was
That's
interested
right.
in editing, post-production, but I wasn't willing to move to Los Angeles from Austin. So I just started working at the university in another capacity. And it was not until then that I found out about the Guild. So back when I'd worked at Straight Music Company, all those guys were piano tuners, but they had political beefs with the Guild, so they never mentioned it, not once. And I had no idea that there was a Guild. I wish I had known, because I would have joined. And so it wasn't until probably 94, 95 that that I started going to Guild meetings. I finally ran into a couple of other technicians who told me about it. And so I went to Guild meetings, and it was a woman, her name was Robin Hoyt.
Yeah.
She contacted me and she said, "Hey, I've been noticing you at the meetings. Um, are you interested in doing this full time at all?" And I said, "Absolutely, but can you make a living at this?" And she went, "Well, yeah, and I'm about to move away, and I work for the Steinway dealer here. So,
Wow.
let me check some of your tunings and see how you do." And I went literally to go tune pianos at the dormitories, because I was in the housing and food department at the university. So I would tune the pianos at the university, in the dormitories, just the grands in the lobby there. And she checked my tunings and she made some corrections and suggestions, and I got better. And she said, "Okay, I think you're ready. I'm going to move in about a month. Go audition for the Steinway dealer." And so I didn't know I could do this for a living until then. And so 1995, I joined the Guild and started my own business full time.
That's
And I love it.
amazing.
I love it. I
That's
love it because you can
amazing.
never know everything.
You can't. You can't even know a little teeny bit. It's like people call me, yeah, "Oh my God, you're so good. Your pianos are amazing, blah, 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 blah. Your tuning is unbelievable, blah." To me, it's a teeny little like inlet in the massive ocean of piano technology. Yes, I'm good at a few things that happen to be really important to making a piano sound great, but everything else, it's like, wow, I'm an apprentice.
Yes.
I'm an apprentice, It's so amazing because I got a break like that too. Because my tuning sounded good from the get. My big ears of a musician helped me in this craft, because they let me do the thing that most people think, "Oh, well, they're good then," right? So I could tune a piano real good, so they thought I could do all this other stuff. I did the same thing. I went in and auditioned for a Steinway dealer, and they thought, "Oh, he's good, shit. Well, let's get him to regulate this piano and do this." And I was like, I have no idea. So failed upwards my whole career, basically. Sounds like. And so you took advantage of the Guild right away.
Right away.
Tell me about that.
Well, I joined the Guild in 95, and I was just an eager beaver at going to the chapter meetings, meeting people like Bernard Malberg and back then Tom C. And
Yeah.
And I had been introduced to the idea of what an RPT was, and Tom and Mary Smith encouraged me a whole lot to start trying to go for that. And it wasn't really until I went to my first SCRC. Well, back then was TSA, but SCRC. And interestingly, Dave Durbin was a guest at our local regional, and I had kind of met Dave Durbin and Jim Coleman and even Richard Bittner and of course Jack Wyatt. And I'd met these guys, and they were all just very, very encouraging. But it was kind of interesting because Dave Durbin was, I think, on the executive committee at the time, and he wanted to encourage me to become an RPT so I could go to council and I could get involved in the political process. And I suddenly, because I was kind of hanging out with them, and I think Jim Coleman was maybe running a close second to being elected on the board. Maybe he was an RVP at the time. I can't remember. But Dave Durbin would just really encourage me to kind of get involved in the political process. So I'm one of the few people I know who became an RPT to go to council. That's why I did it. And I've been trying to go to council ever since. I stopped and, did some mothering and had babies and stuff for a while, but so I missed a few years there. But truly, I really enjoy the political process and the inner workings of the guild, which is probably why I'm running for RVP finally this year.
That's awesome.
I'll be jumping in that way too.
PTG is beyond a shadow of a doubt the greatest continuing education program in the world. Face to face.
To be sure. Yeah.
No question. 100%. Go ahead.
I'm just going to cut in here real quick. For those people watching on YouTube, Facebook, we're going to sign off there. So there should be a link in the chat. If you do want to come join us over here in the Zoom call, you're welcome to join us over here. Just wanted to make that announcement. And we can get back to the conversation with Ricki. Yeah, I'm very excited for you to be running for RVP. That sounds like a great...
Absolutely.
I'm not running unopposed.
Well, there you go.
My current RVP wants to stay.
You can walk
RVP,
then.
so
You don't have to run. Just chill out. Just walk. You can saunter for RVP.
Saunter for RVP. No, it's really important. It's really important to preserve the integrity of PTG. It's really important. It's really important to preserve this thing that's not a technical, logistical, legal, practical thing, which is this sense of community, which is beyond a shadow of a doubt given me priceless gifts over the past 20 years. Mm-hmm. I came to PTG relatively late. I was in it at first and then just dropped out and was out for a long time and back in the mid 90s. And really started in earnest teaching and really having colleagues in the early 2000s. And man, it's lifted my life up. It's lifted my career up. It's challenged me because, there's a lot of badasses that are better than me, in this community. And I love that. I love the challenge of it.
Absolutely. And I also had, I've got Leon Spear in my region. I had Dale Probst in my region. So, and Jack Wyatt, of course. And so these guys have been known throughout the guild. And so I've got big shoes to fill in that regard. But I've really enjoyed getting to know how not only the inner workings, but also how obviously we all like to give back to the guild, and the regional conferences really made a difference to me. I was very, very shy and nervous about my very first regional conference to go to. I didn't go to a national until 98, which was Rhode Island. And that's because I had become an RPT earlier that summer and I wanted to go to council. But before that, I had just been to regional conferences, and I loved how they could reach out to the locals who wouldn't necessarily go to a national. And that's what I really kind of latched onto, is how can I help provide educational opportunities for the guys who barely show up to chapter meetings, but here's this one time a year, back then it was yearly, here's this one time a year where they can go and get 2 or 3 days worth of fabulous classes. And so I really found that to be a valuable resource of the guild. And so started trying to get back that way.
When was I in Austin? Like 3 years ago? Was when SCRC was? 2017, so 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. That was amazing. That was an amazing.
I was in charge of that one. It was.
I know you were.
I had, because I thought, well, I've got enough clout that I can ask big boys like David Anderson to come.
Man, it was fantastic. I made some lifelong friendships from that 3 days.
You did. Bernard Malberg is a good friend.
Bernard and a couple of guys from Houston. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing. That's what, to me, is maybe the most important part of PTG. I mean, I love a lot of men and women. I mean, really and truly, that I've met in this.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not, look, I just turned 72. I'm kind of one click beyond judgment, you know? Hey, everybody's got to find their own way through this. And if you love pianos, you'll find a way.
Well, and for me, the guild is kind of like a three-legged stool. So, and each leg, of course, is just as important. So you've got your education, you've got your testing and exams, and then you've got the fellowship and the social networking, and that's vital to me as someone in the guild, because I've made so many connections and I've learned so many things from my colleagues.
Me too.
So,
hey, Cy Schuster has a question.
Sure.
You want to ask it to her, Cy?
Oh yeah, you can unmute yourself, Cy.
Can you unmute
that
Cy?
Capable. Yeah, or I can read it. Whatever.
Thanks for coming, Ricki. I just put some stuff out there that just to talk about stuff in your area, because what you service out there is we'll have different challenges in different parts of the country. So I just put out some ideas, and also since you're CTE, it'd be nice to know about the tech test. Alan had a question about that too.
Sure.
Well, ask her questions, Cy.
So,
what challenges do you have in your area for servicing? Yeah.
Oh, for servicing pianos?
Pianos, yeah.
Well, Texas is so big that we have a lot of humidity in some areas and a lot of dryness in a lot of other areas. So you kind of have to strike a balance as far as what kind of pianos you're going to come up against, where the piano came from before you, and probably how to service the piano. Damp chaser systems is kind of a big, I don't know, can I say something commercial like that? But,
absolutely.
It's a big quandary in the technicians in this area, because some will only put in partial systems ever, and some will only put in full systems, because sure enough, you put in a full system, you're always filling it up. But there are other people saying, no way, we never put in the humidifying part, just the dehumidifying part. So parts of Texas, depending upon where you are, makes a difference. Also, I would say we have critters, a lot of critters here. We've got rats and snakes and scorpions and mice, of course, and all those kind of things. So you never know what you might find in a piano. So that's probably some of the servicing challenges that you have. If you're servicing something that's, been in somebody's garage for a while or something like that.
And what's the percentage of, I'm sorry, Cy, I'm just going to ask this question, then she can go back. What's the percentage of, garage or neglected pianos in your clientele when you started out and in your clientele now?
That's a great question. Probably I have far fewer of those, unless there may be a new client. I probably have almost none of those now. And of course, starting off, you'll take pretty much anything. It's a big deal if you can get something like, when you're really first starting off and you're trying to build your client base, it's a big deal if you get a church, or, because a church is regular business, or if you get a concert venue or something like that, that's a huge deal. But I would say, because I have tended to focus a lot on field work, I did have a lot of those kinds of pianos where people said, oh, I just got it down the street, down the block, and we just pushed it down the street and into our house, and here it is, So there have been quite a few of those earlier in my career, for sure. I would say that something else that probably, I don't know, was there another question? I'm sorry, Cy, did I answer that very well for you?
Yeah, I was just giving you something to talk about. And then there's some interest in the tech exam and people preparing for it, and your involvement with that. I think that's, testing is such a vital part of what we do. So talk a little bit about the tech exam and how people can prepare for it, and tell people what it involves for those who might not know it.
Well, I'm actually a tuning examiner. So I'm a CTE, which is not the same thing as a TEC, but I have thoroughly enjoyed becoming a tuning examiner and helping people become an RPT. I feel a little threatened when I hear things like, oh, well, they're going to start introducing an ETD into part one of the exam. But I mean, I'm one of those CTEs who's very much willing to give an exam even during this day and age. I've actually had both my vaccines and I've actually had COVID. So I feel like I'm strong and good to go, you know. But I'm one of the few people that I know of who is, I'm happy to give an exam to whoever people come from Louisiana, which is part of our region. They come from Oklahoma or Arkansas even, which is part of our region, to come get tuning exams. Pretty much, I think if people would just ask their local RPTs about if they need skills to brush up on or just dive into, those RPTs are pretty generous with their time if they just are asked. They're not necessarily great at offering their time, but if they're asked, I think they're pretty generous. And I'm also currently chair right now of the chapter health committee, because I care passionately about chapters, you know, the grassroots part of this organization. And so I feel very strongly about the strengthening of chapters and making sure that they're strong and healthy. And in that, you have RPTs who would love to be able to help an apprentice of some kind come up and challenge the exams. So it's just a matter of calling your local RPTs or finding out who the examiners are on the website. Like myself, I'm very, very fluid with information for you, calling the home office to find out, hey, who could I train with to get my skills ready for the exam. So tech exam, I don't know that much, except that I know all the tech examiners in my areas as well as tuning, and they're all very, very happy to help and will tell you step by step what you need to do and how you need to challenge yourself to make sure. A lot of the challenges in an exam is timing. So people can tune a temperament by ear, but it takes them a really long time. So that's one thing that people need to work on is the timing of each skill during the exam. So I can tell you lots about the tuning exam. In fact, I know there's a couple of other tuning examiners on this call, so they could probably answer those questions as well. But that, I mean, I hope that would help people.
Yeah.
Does the guild still sell the source books for both the tuning and the tech exams? I think those are pretty helpful.
Those are, that's a great question. They are under revisement right now. In fact, I'm sort of involved in doing that as well. I can't keep my hand down from helping everybody. But I'm in the middle of revising those, the tuning exam source book, and not the technical one, but that is undergoing a rewrite as far as, I think Dave Davis and Hannah Beckett are working on that. So that, but it is still for sale in its current state. Also the pace books, of course, as well. So I would just highly encourage anybody who is thinking about challenging the exams that if you, especially the tuning exam, it really behooves you to have someone screen you or screen your tuning. And that is simply just a matter of asking an RPT to listen to your tuning and give you some constructive feedback. And sometimes constructive feedback can be painful maybe, but sometimes it's necessary to get better at what you need to do. So always think of, and even if you go into the exam and you don't do well in the exam, you don't pass the exam, please think of it as a learning time where you can just get better at what you don't do well for that part. And I feel very strongly that the oral component of part one should stay untouched. I think it's very much the basis of our profession, that people can do this a little bit by ear. The tuning exam to me is not as daunting as it might seem. Nobody's ever walking in and tuning an entire piano like they used to in the old days. And there are lots of people here on this Zoom interview who know what that was like. You had to walk in and tune a spinet in a really bad environment, and that was your tuning exam. I get that. So the tuning exam, people keep saying, yes, it's 40 years old, but those 40 years, it's really, really been honed to be as fair as possible. So it really is important to have those oral skills. If you want to be able to call yourself a tuner, you just can't buy a device and lean on that your entire career. I feel pretty strongly about that.
I really agree with what you said about not being intimidated and just treating it as a learning opportunity. I mean, looking back, I was about to take the tuning and technical exams while I was doing my PhD, and I noticed kind of that I was more intimidated by the PTG exams than some of my PhD exams. And I think, well, that says something for the rigor of, you know, what we have in place in the PTG. You know, it shouldn't feel that, you know, insurmountable, right? It's really just a little barrier to entry that, you know, you got to pass, and it's more about, you know, progress, improving yourself as a human being. You know, it's just about learning and making some progress and trying. Yeah,
because the pinnacle is not being an RPT. We all know that the pinnacle is to keep learning once you pass RPT. So
RPT, yes,
that's just a jumping off point, frankly, which is why I love that we have all these other educational opportunities for regional conferences and the national conference. I feel amazing. So strongly about that, about the education portion.
So, David, do you mind if I go to a question before you pop in?
Sure.
Brenda Meg had something to ask.
Hey, Ricki.
Hey, Brenda.
Hey, I know you've been involved in the exam prep on the road, and I'm wondering if there's any of those events that are coming up being planned, or when, if that's even going to happen again.
I think it will happen again, possibly in 2022. I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but I don't see why it couldn't. And I think part of the reason why it might have been sort of limping a little bit toward the end was because perhaps of marketing was a bit of a problem. I mean, the people who came to the exam prep on the road really, really found it valuable. They found it extremely valuable for the money that they paid, for the individual instruction that they got at that time. So everybody who goes to those seems to really, really find it worthwhile. But I think it's just getting the word out and getting it out to those folks who may not know it's an opportunity. Likewise, I was also doing sort of an exam prep in Dallas quite often. So Jack Wyatt, as you may all know, or many of you know, Jack Wyatt really is the one who started sort of a skills weekend prep sort of seminar. He was the very first one to do that. And he just kind of showed me all the reins, and I sort of took over. So interestingly, the exam prep weekend that we were doing, we called it associate weekend at the time, and now it's just exam skill prep weekend. But we took that, and that is what exam prep on the road has based their model on, was the one we were doing in Dallas. So I was doing it from a chapter standpoint. So the Dallas and Fort Worth chapters, I live in Fort Worth, the Dallas and Fort Worth chapters would commingle and put this on together. I'm kind of one of those people who gets my hands dirty and gets in there and rolls my sleeves up and does a whole bunch of stuff. So I would kind of organize it. And it was very, very successful. And just, I mean, we just opened it up to the region, but people would come. We had very, very good attendance. And I would talk to Kathy Maxwell at the home office about all the things I was doing to prep for that, the food prep, the classes, the volunteers of our other RPTs who would come in and show people how to do skills. So I had all those things booked out to eventually to the point where Kathy said, well, I think we can do this on the road. Norm Cantrell also is from my region. There's been a bunch of PTG presidents from my region, interestingly. But Norm Cantrell, that was kind of his baby. And I think he was taking it from this one in Dallas. He kind of flew it up the flagpole, as it were. to the home office, and they made it into the exam prep on the road. I remember, Brenda, one time we talked about having me come out there and show the San Jose chapter how to put on their own weekend conference, and that kind of fell down by the wayside, but I was certainly willing to. I also lived in the Bay Area of California for 8 years, so I know a lot of the folks in the California area as well. In fact, I think I probably met Dave Anderson at a California State Convention,
Probably.
Yeah, maybe we can get you to come to San Francisco.
Okay.
All right.
I actually come back every year.
When the pandemic is subsided, absolutely.
Right. We went to Orange. Most of our counties went to Orange this past week, so progress is being made.
That's awesome. Hey, Ricki, I had another question for you that I've asked other people. This, I think, a pretty good question. So there was a point in your career where you were being asked to do more and more precise regulation and tuning and voicing than you had been doing before on better pianos and in more kind of professional venues, let's say. How did you get that? Did you just fail upwards? Did you just work it out from books and stuff?
Absolutely, I failed upwards. I love that expression, David.
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely did. But truly, I would just lean on my chapter colleagues, either Dallas or Fort Worth here. I had a wealth of people in Austin that I could call. And I think we all probably have our go-to people where we can be stupid in front of them and they're not going to judge us. I have 2 or 3 of those people that I can be stupid in front of and not worry about it.
You're extremely lucky.
I have those people, yeah.
Yeah, most people don't have those people.
Really?
So yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
They're vital.
Well, yeah, and you've always had it, so you don't know. But a lot of piano technicians live pretty isolated lives.
Right.
And it's hard for them because they're insecure about their crafts and abilities. I'm describing me at a certain point in my career, I started out because my ears were huge and I could tune as good as almost anybody within a couple of months. So I got a gig real quick. And then I got increasingly heavier gigs really quick because my tuning sounded so damn good, right? So they thought, oh, well, he can do this. And
then he can do all the other stuff, right?
He can do all the other stuff, right?
No, I got in over my head quite a few times.
Yeah, but you had
because the same assumptions were being made.
Well, that's right. So, but you had people to talk to.
Yes.
You had 1 or 2 of those people that you could look stupid in front, that you knew well enough that you trusted wouldn't judge you and, slag you off to other people and stuff.
Absolutely.
And just would help you. Well, that's an amazing gift, man.
Well, and I think that's why the PTG is kind of so important in the networking aspect, because even if you are an isolated technician and even if your chapter isn't that strong, I had a vital chapter, and I've lived in 3 chapters. I've had a San Francisco chapter, an Austin chapter, and Fort Worth. And it just so happens that all 3 of those chapters were very strong chapters and had a lot of involved people. So, but even if you're an isolated technician, take advantage of the fact that the PTG can put you in touch with any number of people, whether they're in your chapter or not, who are willing to answer these dumb questions when you get in over your head. And that's how we learn, right? We get in over our head and we have to climb out of it. So just take advantage of that. Take advantage of the networking aspects of the guild, which I find extremely valuable. So that's what I would offer. I would also just jump in here and say that being a woman in this profession has given me some advantages and some disadvantages. So one advantage that I have had because I happen to be a woman in a traditional marriage. So my husband is kind of the breadwinner. He's got the more high paying job, and I do my love, which is piano tuning. I can certainly make a decent living at it. However, I have an advantage in that aspect because I have been able to play around with my tuning prices much more so than someone who is counting on that next phone call and that next tuning to come through on the phone or on the internet. And so I'm actually one of the highest, if not the highest priced person in Fort Worth and Austin, and very possibly the Bay Area. Now, California, Los Angeles, I know there's Richard Davenport's down there, and he's pretty high. But I'm in the very upper range of that. And I count my lucky stars because I've been able to experiment with my price, knowing that if I lose anybody, I still have my husband who's the breadwinner, and it's going to be okay. So I feel like that's an advantage I've had a little bit as a woman in that regard. And it's been very, very helpful to find out and experiment that way. And I love that I can do that and mess around with that. And what I have found in doing all that is that I really don't lose customers every time I raise my prices. I just don't. Once in a while, I'll get someone who's price hunting, and you can figure those guys out. But even with my current clients, nobody really questions my price hikes, and they don't think about it, which is great. I would say a slight disadvantage maybe I have as a woman in the field, and I do teach a class at the National, which is women in piano technology. I don't teach a class, I moderate a roundtable forum. But it's been fascinating to come through that and come upwards with that, because when we're all talking to each other, it kind of comes up that, yeah, there are some disadvantages that we might have. One disadvantage that I have, I would say, is my safety sometimes. Kathy Smith in Los Angeles gave me some fabulous advice. One time I was called for a tuning, and the guy told me it was in an abandoned house, but he lived next door to the house, so it'd be okay. But he called me, but when I arrived, really it was kind of out in the country, and he was kind of a great big guy, and sure enough, there's this shack next to him, and they were hoarders, and he was leading me into the house, and there was no electricity in the house, and he wanted me to evaluate a piano. And I walk in, and it's hoarder stuff, right? It's floor to ceiling stacks of stuff. We're weaving our way through piles of stuff. And in the middle of all that is this huge, beautiful, covered up grand piano that was pristine. But when I was walking into that situation, I had my bag in one hand, and I think maybe my phone in another. And I felt extremely uncomfortable. I just thought, what if I don't come out of here alive? Yeah. He's way bigger than I am. And I don't know if someone's coming in behind me and they're going to trap me. I had no idea. I was truly fearful of my life in those moments. And yet I walked in, and it turned out okay. But when I talked about that in the women's forum that we had at the National, Kathy Smith gave me a brilliant piece of advice, which is, and I suppose this could go for any guy if you're
absolutely.
Okay, but have a friend on the phone with you as you're walking into a situation where you're uncomfortable. Let them know where you are, and let the person who's leading you or with you know that you're on the phone with a friend.
Oh.
And absolutely that would have made a lot of difference, because I would have had nothing to have defended myself with, because my hands were full if he had rounded on me and done anything to me. So in that regard, I felt unsafe a couple times. Another story I like to tell is that I used to own a snake. I had a snake for 26 years, and I was in an exotic pet store, and I met another snake owner, and we got to talking, and sure enough, I tune pianos. He needs a piano tune. So we make a date. I show up. The snake part is actually unimportant to the story, but I thought you all should know I had a Colombian boa for a long time, named Nigel.
Okay. Nigel.
But I arrived at his house at the appointed time, which is in the afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon. And this guy, who's quite large, greeted me at the door at 2:30 in the afternoon in a head-to-toe Spider-Man costume.
Wow.
With his head covered. His head was covered, had a hood on. I couldn't see his face. And I was quite frightened by this because he wasn't taking his hood off. And so finally I said, am I at the right house? Oh, sorry. And he takes the hood off. He goes, sorry, I was just house cleaning. Come on in.
Yeah, don't you know people house cleaning their Spider-Man uniforms?
Who in their right
That's
mind is going to walk into that situation? But I did.
That's
I
Texas.
needed the money. You know? So
That's Texas, baby.
there is no explanation for why he had a head-to-toe costume on, but he turned out that he was a cop because there was a gun next to me in the room where I was tuning, which made me very nervous as well. I was truly afraid for my life. Turned out that he was a cop, and that was his. And I saw him on the beat weeks later, and I knew he was telling the truth, but I was frightened because I couldn't have defended myself.
Wow.
So, things you learn.
So I would like to go back to something you said as a CTE and a lifelong tuner. That's, as I said, I don't judge a damn thing because I don't have the perspective. I don't have the wisdom to judge other people. I barely have the wisdom to live my own life. But my strong opinion is that it would be weird and like undoable for me to call myself a piano tuner or a piano technician if I didn't have any electricity or my machine broke and I couldn't tune a piano. I wasn't capable of doing that in a good way, that it didn't sound good. I don't understand that. That's why I don't understand somebody that wants to be in the high end of our craft and has the abilities to use their body, to use the gift that life gave them, this incredible body and these incredible ears. They want to use something else to get really close. And it's God bless them for making a living and supporting, kids and responsibilities and stuff. But man, there's something there that just.
Well, but there'll be quite a few people who disagree with you and say you can make a living and.
I understand that.
Right.
I'm talking about as a crafts person, as a human being who says, I have this craft, well, I just, to me, your ears are the key to everything as a piano technician. And I mean everything. Everything. Your ability to pay attention is everything. To really focus on the work you're doing instead of on your self-critique and all this BS that's going on in your mind, to just focus on the work. And I think tuning is a portal to that. And it's a training for that. Mm-hmm. It's like SEAL team training for your ears. Just put your attention, enter the world of sound and see what happens. You will be able to voice, you'll be much more into this actual activity. It's like meditation, but you enter that world and you give yourself to it. I don't know what I'd do if I couldn't do that.
And I think that when people are seriously entering this profession and they're getting deeper into it and they start off being an ETD user and they want to progress, I think they do finally realize I've got to use my ears in this very basic way.
No question.
Because it translates, of course, into the rest of what we do as a well-rounded technician. You need to be able to regulate and hear the difference in the regulation. You need to be able to develop all your skills. And I think that once people feel comfortable enough that they can earn a living with an ETD, then they're ready to take off the training wheels, if I don't offend anybody by that, and say, okay, now I'm just going to learn to walk without these training wheels and learn to hear and listen to a piano and be able to tune it by ear. I may never use it, but I've got that skill in my quiver, so to speak, that arrow.
Listen, in doing all-day sessions all over the country over the last 15 years, I did all-day programs in, I don't know, between 15 and 20 different cities all over. And what I'd usually do is do the all-day on Saturday and then have some private tutoring on the next day and have people give me whatever they wanted to give me, and I would give part of it back to the local chapter or something like that.
Yep, you did
and
that often.
Yeah, I did. The vast majority of people that want my help want to get back into oral tuning or want to solidify their oral skills, that they really feel a need, a missing of that in their professional careers. And I'm saying, yeah, because when you do it with your body and it's fun and it's good and you're into it and you're in the zone, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun and you get paid for it. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. I mean, as long as you can use your ETD as a tool and not a crutch, that's really all it's about. And I have learned to use, because I'm an examiner, I have to be able to run a tuning program. So I have to know how to use one. So that's why I eventually bought one. And as long as you can start using it as a tool that it was meant to be.
Oh.
And
they're beautiful tools. Beautiful.
They certainly are. And I applaud the guys who invented these things, the four big guys who did this. And, you know, we wouldn't have a fair tuning exam today if we didn't have the advent of Al Sanderson's AccuTuner.
That's right. So, Mr. Janney, we're getting close to the end here, baby. Do we want to wrap up?
This has been, we got about 5 minutes left. Yeah.
Yeah. This has been amazing. Yeah. Is there more questions?
Carl Lieberman might have something to chime in with to wrap up, but let me, before he does, I will say we put some links in the chat there. If you're interested in any of the convention recordings, you can click the first link and then you can check out what's there. And if you want a package more than just one, you can get a discount. There also, I think we've got a coupon code. If you get the pop-up and add your email, you can get a coupon code as well temporarily. Put a feedback form, which we've adapted slightly. By the way, thank you for those of you that are giving feedback for these sessions.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Made it a little bit simpler. You know, if you've given feedback before, but you just want to get through it quickly, there's sort of like a first part that's very quick and then optional detailed section. And then, yeah, if you want to subscribe to the Radio Hour Direct Access so that you always get the links to the Zoom calls in your email, there's a link in the chat for that right now. And you always have access to these recordings as well in our member area. So, Carl, are you interested in asking your question?
Yeah. So listen, let me tee Ricki up, because you're so active politically and you know, running for RVP. What do you think is the important challenge? Some of the important challenges facing PTG.
Great question.
Thank you, Carl, and I can't wait to see you in person again so I can give you a haircut.
Yes, sirree. Well, we've gone viral.
That was the main haircut. That was the main person you cut over the past years. You gave this crazy man some semblance.
I gave lovely Christopher Brown a nice, pretty haircut too.
You did. That's funny.
Hi, Chris. Well, thank you for asking, Carl. You know, I think one of the things that I am kind of concerned about politically is exactly where is the organization going. We have kind of some upheaval happening because of COVID, and we're sort of scrambling to figure out our new direction with maybe less money because not as many people renewed their membership, or do we have plenty of money in the bank? We've got to really look at our finances. I think looking at the finances is a big deal. Figuring out what is the long range plan. What exactly does that mean? And is that going to behoove everyone in the guild, or is that just some company that we hired? Is that just their idea and we're going along with it? I would also say that I really feel strongly about RVPs connecting heavily with their chapters in their region. I think communication is huge, and we need to kind of get back to that and retain those members. Train, retain, and maintain. We need to do all that with our members, because that's who makes up our guild. We have no guild otherwise. And I think that we need to take a look at the leadership of the guild and just maybe not necessarily get rid of it, but just really analyze who's leading and what their ideas are when we're going forward. So I just kind of want to be at that board table, in that boardroom, helping those decisions along.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks. And you fit that right in the time frame allotted. You're getting some applause from the gallery here.
Yeah.
And some thanks in the chat.
Massive
LD
thanks in the
says,
chat.
thank you, Ricki. Cy Schuster, great to see you, Ricki. Thanks. Alan Eder, thank you. Ricki. Bill Yick said thank you. Alan Eder, President Ricki. There you go.
Yeah.
You might have to run for that one. You might not be able to saunter, but
Oh, I was president of my chapter.
No, the national PTG
National. There you
needs
go.
new blood, baby.
For sure.
Needs new blood.
Excellent. Yeah, many more thanks are coming in from Brenda and Kathy and Joshua Martel. Karel Wangania, who's in there from far away in the other hemisphere of the country. Or not the other hemisphere, but the western side of the planet. Okay, and Paul Malesi as well. Thank you. So we really appreciate it. As I said up front, Ricki, you know, there's several reasons why we really appreciate you being here, and hope you come back, and hope you invite others, other friends, and other women, and just other people to join us, because we had a great time today, and I'm sure we'll have more great times in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ricki. It was, again, a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Remember that you can catch us live online every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's right. Go to pianotechradio.com to register so you can interact live and ask questions of our guests.
See you next week.